I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Kristen, can you have a roll call, please?
Yes, Pearson,
Here.
Carroll,
Here.
Downey,
Here.
Morset,
Here.
here, Odie, here, Plunkett.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, approval of minutes from the June 22nd meeting.
I move approval of the June 22nd minutes.
Second.
First and second, any questions on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, approval of bills with Ms. Mueller. Mueller, I'm sorry.
It's totally,
I always, sorry.
Totally fine.
Alyssa, I apologize.
it took me years to look and say it
Yes.
differently. I move to approve the bills in the amount of $1,299,223.77, subject to the comptroller.
Second.
Okay, first and second on the bills. Any questions? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let me get something right here. Public comments. Is there anybody in the audience has anything like to say or talk about right now? Okay, nobody in the audience. Next, move on to the consent agenda. First one is a resolution awarding the bid for the 2021 sidewalk, curb, gutter, and structure repair program. This would give the award to Krember Companies, the amount of $79,478. Remember, was the only, and they were the only bid we received. Next one is the resolution accepting public improvements for 1300 South Main Street. And this would be if we accept the improvements, it'll be an 18-month warranty period for the public improvements. Next one is a resolution authorizing North Water Tower engineering contract with SEI Inc. This resolution will authorize a contract for professional services with Short Elliott Hendrickson Incorporated for consultation on complete engineering, final design, and bidding construction and inspection services for proposed North Water Tower located on the ridge in Whitetail Ridge Corporate Park in the amount of $169,440. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull consent agenda item number 2.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of consent agenda items 3 and 4.
Second. First and second, questions or comments on the other ones? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Downey, you pulled number 2.
Resolution awarding bid for 2021 sidewalk, curb, gutter, and structure repair program. As I was reading the packet, I had noticed that there was not a competitive bid. And I wanted to know from the staff's professional opinion, why that is in this particular sense. And it talks about, how it can go, and it depends on the 5% of the work that maybe asked for them on smaller items, I noticed, with certain parts of that. So I would like if they could explain just a little bit of the up and the down, the flow of spending, so they could, please.
Mr. Downey, can I understand the question a little bit more? What do you mean? What do you mean by the up or down spending?
Okay, so it says in the packet, the bid documents for this project are set up to get a unit price for many different possible types of work may be encountered throughout the year. It is written in the bid documents that the actual work performed may be more or less than the bid. Like when they say that, do they have specifics of what those items that would actually change that amount? Because there's only one bid, that's why I'm asking.
Well, I think I understand your question. So I believe what we're referring to is we're paying on actual quantities performed. So, we're estimating how much work is available for based on the streets and that, but then they're doing, we're paying based on what they're actually pouring and doing. I think is that what your question is?
So it's a little bit more itemized, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's not, we don't have, you see in the packet, we've got the more detailed plans for the water tower, it's saying is kind of exactly how the water tower is going to be built, et cetera. At this point, 30% plan, then they're going to go. The curb, sidewalk, and gutter is more of a map that's developed, but then we're also doing some site inspection with the city employee looking at things and then ultimately the professional judgment of the company too, when they're out there, like, well, we need to do a little bit more of this curve or something to make it work. So that's a question.
Yeah, we've worked
Staff
with,
might be able to clarify more.
we've worked with timber companies before, so I know that would be good work. I was just curious, was there a long run period as well for a competitive bid?
Yeah, I can't speak to that directly. I don't know. If our city engineer or community development director would like to speak to that, but I didn't have any conversations with any potential bidders about why they didn't bid.
I know why.
They don't need the word.
We were lucky to get it.
So it was advertised for 2.5 to 3 weeks, which is typical of what we do on all of these projects. And another reason for that cost discrepancy is because we try to get unit prices for a variety of different possible scenarios that they might be out there or come across. And oftentimes we only use half of the bid items that are in that contract. So the actual dollar spent can be quite a bit less than what we've got for, but we want to make sure that there's a bid item there in case they come across something so that we don't have a change order and they can really peg us for a lot of money on something that we shouldn't have to pay for.
If some of that workload was broken up, do you think there'd be more competitive bids?
I mean, each of these little locations that we have marked in the field so far is $1,000 worth of work. So when you add them all together, I mean, could we bid out each location of $1,000? Maybe, but I mean, that would be a ton of staff time.
Might help generate local work too, possibly. All right, well, thank you for your answers. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. Move approval for consent agenda item number 2.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Next is ordinance 2021-05, amending section 10.12.030, official parking control map, Meadows Drive, no parking, and this is the first reading. Does council have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I've got a comment. I've been kind of looking at this situation. I've also been contacted by, I think, 8 or 9 neighbors in that general area. I've had some conversation with staff prior to this, and just have got some general concerns as that area develops and builds. Specific to this topic, we have a proposal to do the no parking from corner to corner, essentially taking care of the vision triangle. My desire would be to just not allow parking on that side of the street at all on Meadows Drive for a number of reasons. Number one, I think as Meadows Drive is going to be the collector in that area, there's going to be a fair amount of traffic. But number two, if people are parking there, they're most likely going to the park. And my concern is that, you know, if a family's parking on that side of the street, they're going to be crossing traffic to get there. I just as soon have us consider taking out that parking on that side of the street altogether. So that would be my desire when the second reading comes around.
Anybody else have anything you want to say about this?
How many, question for Scott, if I can there.
Yeah.
How many parking spots additionally is that? Looking here, it looks like we're just talking about leaving 3 or 4 there.
Well, actually, I talked to staff and Amy could probably answer that question better, the Community Development Director Peterson. I think it's 14.
Oh,
So there is a significant number there, but like I said, I think as that street grows, my preference would be just to eliminate the parking there. I think there's a bigger question that we have to ask in that area that probably is beyond the scope of this agenda item, but I think there's more attention we need to pay into that area as we have development in Dawes Place and soon to have the sixth subdivision coming in. So that's what's driving my thoughts.
Anybody else have any thoughts on this?
I
I would support eliminating, any parking on that street. I think, Mr. Morissette is right that, that's going to get busier and busier. And since we're going to change, parking on both ends of the curve, it makes sense to just change the whole thing rather than leave. I'm not sure how many parking spots would still be left kind of in the middle of that curve. As traffic increases in that area because of increased development, I think it would make sense to, keep Meadows Drive as wide as possible for smooth flow of traffic.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
I will suggest to the council they consider the impact that you would be limiting the access by folks for vehicle parking and access to the park. So that'd be one consideration that staff would ask you to consider. And also that parking on the streets makes them safer. Reduces the speed that people feel that they can drive in an area, and allowing some parking on sections of street, especially in the entrance to a subdivision, can actually perform as a speed deterrent and can improve the speed at which people feel they can drive through a neighborhood. So we don't know all the things that are going to occur and the traffic patterns are going to be developed, because we can do everything on paper and try to project. But once Meadows is constructed and the development, I think staff is certainly committed to keeping an eye on this. But I would suggest that the design widths are more than adequate for parking on both sides of the street, with the exception of the site distance areas that have been brought up by staff. That being said, we'll honor the council's wishes on these things as we go forward, but just something to consider.
And just to be clear, I'm just talking about parking on that southwest side of the street, not the northeast, not the park side of the street, if you will.
Yeah, I think we understand that as staff, that's desired. And there's still, just looking at the aerial photo and the size of cars on there, there's probably maybe up to 8-10 spots on the other side, even if you closed it. But just a consideration that sometimes no parking actually doesn't result in what residents are looking for, which is a street that they feel is safer. So that would be just something to consider. There is sidewalks on both sides of that street. So from a pedestrian safety perspective, we're providing plenty of refuge for people to safely travel. The mid-block access to the park can be challenging, so that's something to think about too. As again, if it develops, we're going to see how the traffic plays out. We want to think about that. But if the council wishes to do no parking on that entire side of that street, that's something certainly within your review. And we haven't done serious traffic study yet to try to project what that difference would mean. I'm just telling you as anecdotally, when we have speed issues in the neighborhoods, we actually suggest one thing neighbors can do to reduce the speed is have your teenager or you park your car out on the street, because it helps reduce people's feeling that they can go 40 miles an hour on the 25-mile-an-hour zone. So it's just something to consider.
And nothing says we can't go with what staff recommends now, and if there's still an issue, we can always go to no parking later.
And the reverse is true. If the council would like to start with no parking on the entire width of the street, and it's determined that that's somehow impinging on people's ability to park for events, then you can always make a change back too. So you have the ability to kind of determine what. We don't have a parking committee at the city of Irving Falls, which some cities do, and they go through this long list of steps and they get official requests from the public, and then it's a committee of 2 engineers and 2 council people. So we're a little bit more free flowing here with our approaches, and we're signs are not that expensive to put up or take down.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, move on to ordinance number 2021-06. This is amending section 10.12.030, official parking control maps on Drive Run Road, no parking. This would approve a no parking zone on Garland Road between Division Street and the city boundary. Any questions on this, council? Okay, next one is a resolution amending development agreement between the city of Little Falls and the Povolny Group. This would be the approved amendment to the developers agreement between the city and the Povolny Group.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the resolution approving amending the development agreement between the city and the Povolny Group.
Second.
Okay, first and second, questions?
What has the Povolny Group done so far on this so that we have indicators that this is something that is going to get done, or should we proceed with the process listed in the contract for getting back our, was it $500,000? Now,
Yeah, we haven't, there's not been any transfer of the property to date, or money. So what they've done to date, demonstrated interest in performing on the contract is we're active prospect development. So there's companies we know that are interested in leasing the property. We understand that there is a financing commitment from a bank on the property. So we understand they have some ability to get the project financed. We could go back to the drawing board. I think the thought by staff is we have other parties interested in general in development land in the city, but not on this particular property. So we believe there's no opportunity and cost of us leaving it off the market. So essentially they've kind of put their thumbprint on this property and said that's what we're going to build. We haven't transacted business yet. We're suggesting that the council renews or extends gives them an extension, that we would still put our primary efforts with this group on this property instead of listening to other offers or working with other companies.
I may have misunderstood this contract, but I thought that they were putting forth a $500,000 bond as a guarantee of performance on this. In that contract at 5% interest. That would be then given when we meet the conditions of the contract. Did I read that wrong, or was that just something that hasn't happened yet?
Typically, the performance is at the time of transaction when the land actually goes to them. So since we land is not, we still hold the land. So when we do a land transaction, then they're putting up some kind of collateral bond. I apologize. I'd have to read again to make sure this development has which performance mechanism in it, but essentially we're holding something, and then if they perform on the project, meaning they build the project to the minimum standards, then we release that off the deed that they would then have. But right now, we still own the property. So they're kind of, our development agreement with them puts forth a process by which we would transact the land. If we didn't want to extend it, then what you'd be saying is we want a different deal than what we put together based on the time that's transpired between when we agreed to that and what we may want to now negotiate differently.
I misunderstood. My apologies, where we were in that process, reading through that contract. So we're just sort of floating right now then with nothing from this development group to the city for locking this down for a period of years.
Yeah, we're proposing an extension of a year, I believe, but we are saying if they, within this 1 year period, will perform on the term, we will transact the property. And again, if we let it expire, then we would then have no obligation to transact the property under that. And obviously they'd have no obligation to transact, but the teeth for them is limited in the sense that there isn't a non-performance penalty until after we transact the property. Does that make sense? I'm not saying it makes sense about why we did that deal structured that way, but do you understand what the deal structure is?
Now, I'm more clear on where we are in that process.
Staff has had discussions in the past and will continue to do so, I believe, on what is the opportunity cost for the city, both in staff time to kind of transact, manage these. In other words, should we be charging them some kind of fee that they lose if they don't go forward with it? I'm not sure we've reached that stage in our development life yet, but at some point, if we believe we're the hot commodity and everybody's dying to get these lots, then, and you probably wouldn't let people get in line without a ticket. Yeah, which would have a cost to it.
Yeah, I guess that was section 4.2 that I was reading that in, and that does say commensurate with the receipt of warranty deeds, so I did not understand what was part of that process. And thank you for the.
Yeah, we could have made that more clear in the memo, but yeah, I talked to staff again about that today, and staff politely reminded me, we still have, it's still our property, it hasn't been transacted yet.
Thank you for the additional information on the potential for, in the future, having some sort of earnest money from developers as they use up city land.
Any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's resolution approving the purchase of a 2020 Chevrolet Silverado MD for the electric utilities.
Mr. Mayor, move approval for resolution approving purchase of a 2020 Chevrolet Silverado MG for electric utility.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments? All in favor?
Question on this, sorry. I realize that the 2020 is the only one that they saw in the state bidding contract. Is that what they want, or would we be better served with a current model year vehicle?
Yeah, in talking to Wayne Cyberlin, our electric superintendent, and Ray Curtis is helping with the purchase on this. This is the vehicle that they were looking for.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have one comment on this.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to note that it appears as though the state contract, which is ultimately how we're purchasing this through, has an Illinois dealer. So I just thought that was interesting. It's not a bad thing, just of note.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next is administrative report. If anything has a question for Scott, or Scott, you have anything for us?
Yeah, I'll just remind everyone while you're thinking your questions, that the River Falls Day flyer and information that's out there, you can find it at rfchamber.com. The list of bands that are going to be playing at different stages are available then, as well as a variety of family-oriented events, and the parade on Friday, which is in a modified format for this year. And a number of other events are going to be hosted throughout the community by lots of private groups, and we encourage people to go out and have a good time together in River Falls.
Okay, Scott. Anybody have anything for Scott? Okay. Move to adjourn.
Second.
First and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
It's an Illinois
So I could have pointed that out, but I thought you should let it go.